So we're learning the Sicha in Sichas, volume 6, on Parshas Shemos, the second Sicha on Parshas Shemos. We're in the middle of the Sicha, holding a Zion. And we are now in the middle of the learning the Biurim. B'teres Rabbeinu was written by Ashkenazi. Based on Rabbi Yael's shiurim. So we're trying to explain here that when somebody is giving somebody, A is giving this something. There is two aspects here. There's the pleasure of the giver from giving, and how low could he get to who could he stretch it to? Depends how great he is. The bigger the giver is, if he's infinite, he'll get infinitely lower. Then there's a second idea: when the recipient receives it properly, he associates with it, he enjoys it, he internalizes it, that gets a much bigger pleasure. You could ask why? What do I care about what he's doing with it? I like to give, I gave him. You say no. And the much greater pleasure, the recipient receives it properly. That we're in the middle of explaining it, because the sheirish of the recipient of the kelim is higher than the sheirish when you're giving. So the beginning of the giving, the source of the giving is connected with the end of the giving. But the recipient, say if my said, the recipient goes higher than the beginning, then higher, reaches higher. That we're going to explain a little bit better now. First, we explained practically that when you give somebody and you see that he enjoys it, he appreciates it, he took it well, and it's really making a difference for him, you have much more pleasure. Now we're going to explain it even deeper. Okay, so on page, where we are on the page with Beis, the section starts with Kachu. So he's saying, so he explained, I gave a very good, interesting marshal. Two lawyers, a prosecutor and a defender. So if the defender, even the defender would be able to prove that the prosecutor is wrong, proven, but still could be that he's not really changing him. He's still not happy with the prosecutor, because he doesn't associate with that kind of emotional or that kind of approach. But if the defender finds a space where it's not designed in chesed or gvura, it's something above it, like for instance, a factual thing, like, so he's not going against the nature of the prosecutor, then the prosecutor could handle it, could take it better and accept it even 100%. Okay, let me see what. In other words, when the defender wants to get really properly to the prosecutor, he has to go to a place higher from where he's coming till now. If he's coming where he's coming up, even if he'll prove his point, it's still not completely be accepted by the recipient, by the prosecutor. But when he comes to a place higher than himself, he goes out from himself, the defender goes out from himself, goes to higher himself, then he could get really properly into the prosecutor. So that's also, again, another example. But soon he'll explain why it is so. Okay. Same thing when you give kindness, goodness to somebody else, was brought in the Sicha as example. So yesh et etzem hanesina lezulat. There's the concept of you're giving to somebody, but the fact that you're giving to somebody else. The yesh et hakabala shele, and then there's a second step. The recipient receives it. Not only takes it, v'chefze b'dovo, and he's wanting to receive it. Im hanesin lebo misheresh hashpo shel hanesin. So listen to saying unbelievable things. If the giving comes from the giver, from the source of giving, shel hanesin, the source that where he's a kind person, the hainu me'ateva shel nafshe, from his nature of his soul, lashpias atzmi lekol mokem, to give of himself to every place, even to somebody else. The recipient cannot enjoy it. Frightening. The nature of when he doesn't want to be a recipient, he wants to be a giver. So if you're giving him, somebody told me one time a very interesting thing. He said he was in hospital, and somebody came, he didn't tell me who, and gave him something for wherever. He said, all what I felt, that I'm just a being there for him to fulfill the mitzvah, to him to be able to do the mitzvah of giving, and having another V on his chart with another thing. So Mamish was like he felt the guy didn't enjoy it. The rabbi saying it's right. But a person doesn't be a recipient. So what is the solution for that? So therefore in tzedakah, the best you do it smart and say so. You give him away, he doesn't know who gave it. Even better that you don't know who you're giving it to. So you're minimizing the giver and the recipient point of view. He doesn't know there's a receipt from you, at least he's not a receiver. But therefore, I'm saying the highest level of tzedakah is what? That you come to him and you help him to do his business in a way that he doesn't even feel it. Right? You invest in his business because you say it's a good business, and you're helping him without him feeling. But it wouldn't matter you really that they didn't give. It's only because you effort of that. And then that's the highest level. You don't let him fall that he needs already. Before he needs anything, he doesn't need anything. Help him then. Here, I think the Rebbe is going to speak even on a deeper level. So if there is a giver and a recipient, there's a problem. The recipient doesn't want to be a recipient. He cannot enjoy it. Because why? Because I would say in simple words, because you, yeshes of the giver, is here also. And that puts down, if I give somebody else, A gives B, means A is bigger than B. Not only A is the giver and B is the recipient, B doesn't want to be a recipient, means A is better than B. A is bigger than B. And that is the nature of a person that he doesn't like it. So what do you do about it? However, so that therefore, if it's being given from right, not Choloson, the Seifon, that if the beginning comes from the giver, it's not going to be good enough. If you could get in yourself higher than you being a kind person, it means you're higher than yourself. Could you go higher than yourself? Get into a step. You're giving it from the absolute essence of the nefesh. So what helps? Then you are not defined. The essence is not defined. Not only you're not a giver, you don't exist. If the recipients feel that you don't exist, you don't feel that you're giving him, and he's a recipient, because you're coming, not because you're hiding it cleverly, you're politically correct, you're saying the right words, but you're really like in that level. So it's not coming from your kindness, it's coming from a place. There's no difference between the giver and the recipient. And he could enjoy it. To a point that even you have to be able to make it that he did you a favor. If you really, you have to feel that. It's not only like playing games here. The Chassidus used to say, my stickle bread is yours like mine. He feels that it belongs to him like it belongs to the giver. The recipient feels it's his. The recipient does like the giver. Because there's the giver. In other words, he's saying from the shirish of giving, you cannot do it. The shirish of giving, you're a giver, you're a kind person. There's you, there's the I. So ultimately, the recipient, it doesn't get to the gut that doesn't enjoy it. Give you another example. Everybody say you must compliment. You ever feel in your life that somebody gave you a compliment that you didn't feel good about it? Ever happened to you? I think it could happen. Why? Because if A is giving a compliment to B, means A is what he's doing. He's becoming bigger than B. I'm proving that you're good. I'm the one saying that you're good. It's in a power struggle, so you give more compliments, and that makes you stronger. That makes you above the recipient. I read one time there was a little kid, grade 1. And I don't know if this gives so much to that. I forget about this stuff. I think it's important. I mean, if you want, I could tell you this about it. Anyway, he had leadership qualities like anything. So the school and the teachers and the professors who were involved, they want to know what he is a leader like by nature. What so, but he already was the leader, like he was like the boss. So they asked the parents' permission to move him to another school, to grade 1, and we'll watch him with videos of the professional people. We'll see how he takes over the control of the whole team. So they agreed. Okay, they moved him to another school, another class. So they're sitting and when they're watching, he comes the first day, sitting quiet and watching what's happening. Doesn't do nothing, just sitting on the side watching everything. The next day, he started to compliment everybody. Everybody did something good, he complimented. The third day, he was already the boss of the place. And I'll call upon him. So I'm saying when the giver, right, if you feel that you give, if the guy is giving you a compliment, there's nothing, no ego challenge here, then you could enjoy the challenge. You enjoy the compliment. Same thing as the giving. If you feel that it's yours like he is, that he doesn't feel that he gave you, that he's above you, I mean that the giver is in a place of bittul, is coming from his etzem. That's what he's saying. That's higher than when we normally when you give. That's the way you give him because you like to give, you want to give, and you enjoy to give. It's you. Why do I give? You know why I give? Because I like it, because I enjoy it. What do I enjoy? First of all, I like to do kindness. Second thing, I like to be a giver, and he's a recipient. Like somebody said, I should be able to give a lot to people that need. I said, you should be able to give, but they shouldn't need. If you really care for him, then you want him, he shouldn't need. Something you enjoy that he need because I could give him. Okay. Since that the recipient, the receiving of the recipient is b'shosha b'mokim keach atzmi b'nefesh hamashpia. The recipient that he receives, why he receives it, when he receives it properly and he enjoys it and he relates to it and he's identified with it, is because it's coming from the etzem of the mashpia. So now, to be spoke till now that the recipient enjoys it 100%. But saying now, imagine the mashpia that by him he's coming to his essence, he's functioning a level of essence. He really is himself now. So his pleasure is a much greater pleasure, but not again. The pleasure is not that I'm the giver. The pleasure that I'm a nothing. Now, the being a nothing is really your etzem is a much deeper pleasure than being a somebody. If you're somebody, you're a limited somebody. And that's infinitely greater pleasure than when he was before he was a giver because he wants to give and he likes to give and he feels bad for the other person. I hear somebody's telling me, this guy has a problem and he has this problem, parnasa, problem, health, such a chassidus. And then I feel so bad for him. I felt so bad and I cried and I didn't want to say anything, but we stopped. I thought we were talking about the other person that is feeling bad. Now you are the whole center of the attraction here. How I feel bad. And I wanted to give it and I couldn't give him and then I gave him and then I couldn't sleep at night and then I enjoy it and I like it and I don't like it and it doesn't mean to do that. Why was an iPhone? To buy an iPhone, but not I in a person. Verstehst du? So that's what he's saying. The man about you. That's what I'm saying. It's mind blowing, and that's why we're saying is. I'll tell you a story now. I have a neighbor. I won't say his name because everything goes on recording. And I'm talking about a neighbor when I was a little kid. My father's neighbor. And he made a bar mitzvah to his son, the neighbor. About 50 years ago, we're talking about. It wasn't such a fancy bar mitzvah like a chassidus today, like they're making here in South Africa. We cook more at home. Anyway, so the father of the bar mitzvah boy, verbrengt. It became a little bit 11, 12 o'clock at night, whatever, I don't remember exactly. It was a small group remained already, was like, became a verbrengen. Every simcha is to turn into verbrengen. It was a chassidus shari, verbrengen. Anyway, he said a little bit Chaim, he said a little bit more Chaim. So he was a little bit like in art of limit, like he took his guard a little bit. He said, guys, I was sitting maybe 15 guys, I don't know how many guys. I'm having the picture in my head till today, how to fake it having. He said, look, it's an interesting thing, he says to the guys. There was many people with bar mitzvah. The whole of Chabad comes. In that time, there were like 170 families. If you made a simcha, you invited everybody. So a few hundred, 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, whatever it was. So he said, everybody came here. There is one person that didn't come. Is his neighbor, my father. He's talking about my father. My father. He says, why didn't my father go? Because the point, he has a terrible cold, whatever. He had a medical reason that he couldn't go. But he knew about the neighbors. That's my father. So he says, everybody came. The only one didn't come. He says, is Rabbi Kesselman. He said, I want to ask you a question, but I said, why do I feel that the only one that was here is Rabbi Kesselman? And it blew my mind. And what? It's called Kippur. It was personal also. We're talking about my father. But it was, and here he explains it to you. If you come because I have to come, or because I have to schlep you off, or because I'm saying I'm an ego. So ego is conflict with another ego. But we all have Baruch Hashem ego. But when you're able to get to a place where the other Jew really means to you something, then it's a different story completely. Okay. So that is, he gave an example in people. Same thing is in godliness. Yesh beis darges. In godliness, there's two madreges. Aleph, the first madrege, godliness is bli gvul, and therefore, if he's bli gvul, he could stretch, he could reach infinite, extend infinite. There's no place where you cannot get. If you're infinite, you could get far, low, infinite low. But there is not a real recipient over there. The creation that you get to, you get there, and you are there. And it has the manifestness that you're there. But the recipient is not really receiving it. As we learned in the hour 456. Because when you come there, because you are big, it means you come in, even could be by force. You break your door in. You're forcing the prosecutor to agree, accept that you're saying right, but you did not change him. So you force them with proofs that you're right, but because you're coming from an opposite place from you, or in our case, from my ego to you, then it cannot penetrate into you. You don't want to be a recipient. Then that is one place that's one dark in the course. But this, right? No, the beginning. You see how far you could get infinite, so you know that there is the beginning expressed. But then there's a level of bli gather. There's no definition whatsoever. From that point, mishavim nivroim. It becomes created nivroim. Kilu sham mishavim nivroim keli. You make such a recipient that you make him now that he could receive godliness is making sense to him. Not is the opposite of godliness, but because you are obligated, you could get there. He is the Etzem, he's opposite in the first stage. He's a yesh, he's opposite of the good, but you are infinite, you manage to get through to him. But he did not internalize, he doesn't identify with it, he doesn't internalize it completely. But when you are going from beyond yourself, in no definition, what's interesting, bligvul and no definition should be similarly the same thing. But here, some mitzvahs of bligvul, here you're not bligvul, you're beyond bligvul. So then you have a recipient that godliness, he could accept godliness 100%. Even so he's not godly, but he could have completely identify him because you coming from a non-existent could penetrate in existent, or to create an existence that it could be a complete chaos to the truth. Okay, now he's claiming he's going to explain it even better. The yes rabbi, to explain it a little more better. I didn't mean, I'm not saying that the first darga of Ein Sof is not received by the creation. Because you didn't explain enough times, or there's something in your giving is missing something, therefore it wasn't accepted properly. No. If that would be the same, if I give more or put in more, it is covered, then we accept it. So no, that's not the problem, that's not the solution. Giving and receiving is two opposite movement. This is giving, this is receiving. Suras hagoy shel eir hablikvul himitzidei, when the way it reaches the recipient from the level of infinity, of the light of Blikvul, is from the point of view of the giver, Blikvul, because he's Blikvul. So he receives not because the Tacht is able to receive it, because I'm Blikvul, I could get it through to you. I'll push it into you. So what are you doing then? I'm destroying the Mekal in a way. I'm Blikvul, so I could get into you. There's something disturbing me. I'll nullify it, not a positive nullification, a negative nullification, but I make it at the mekabel from his point of view. So I don't have to mevatel him. That he, from his point of view, could receive it properly, from his limitation, from his perception, from his approach, from his personality, he could identify it and accept it properly. That means that it's absolute emes. And that could come only from a place that is not mugdar in anything, even not in Blikvul, even not in the Shpor from Blikvul. Now he's giving another mushroom, but that's still in the square brackets. Well, there I have the Bechais HaNefesh. We find in the life of the soul, the life of the body, there's two kinds of lives. There's a highest clothing. There's one common denominator in the whole body from head to toe, that you're alive. It's called general life, that not being dead is alive. And then there's another kind of chayis. Chayis pratis means the eye to see, the nose to smell, the ear to hear. Chayis aklolis mechayis aguf. The general chayis gives life to the whole body. Aval bat, you have to remember, geder haguf, the definition, the limitation of any inanimate of body, lei murgesh, is not felt. Why? He misbateles. He mevatelet et geder ademen. The highest is highest quality is the infinite highest, so therefore he makes is nullifying his definition of being an inanimate. Also, together guf she happenly is Adam. He makes them to become a person, which means becomes alive, and to a point that he doesn't feel his body. If he feels his body, if you feel your hand, means there's something not 100% right with it. You shouldn't feel your hand, not your head, nothing. When you're perfectly healthy, you're like almost like saying a flooding. Chai neses atzmi, if you want to call it. So what is the highest quality doing? He breaks away, he breaks the body from being a daemon, and he makes him alive. He took him, but from the daemon point of view, you didn't get to him. You didn't change the daemon. You mevatel the daemon. Inanimate. Now I'm shocking myself, if you give him more life, later Shanei Samat will not change that from the daemon from his point of view. But now we're talking about the Keach HaRiyeh, the Keach HaShemi, the power of hearing. Everyone has an individual. That means the eyes could see, not because you mevatel the eye fakir, because the eye is glancy, is like it's reflecting, is designed. And you make that the eyes could see because of what the eye is, not because you mevatel the eye. From the idea of life, of course, you ask me, but you need life before you can start seeing. Yes, there's a bit of the day mitzvah chayis kolod. That's when the chayis kolod. But then when the chayis party comes, he's talking to you in your language. The chayis comes, says to the body, says you are dead. It's not good. Nullify yourself. And his mevatel is infinite and becomes alive. He becomes his daemon. When the Keach HaRiyeh comes to you, it doesn't tell him you're not good. It says you're alive yet now, but and you're shining. You could see, you're reflecting. You could see. I'll just help you to see. I mean, he sees from his point of view. That is the right vessel to appropriate. That's the Indian from what we said. The kelim are higher than. And the recipient receives it properly. The eye is the proper recipient, and the goof in that marshal is that the Ein Sof gets through to him, but he's mevatel his mitzias. So what do we have here? Remember, all this is the introduction to understand the difference between the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash, and what happened and why. All to understand why they made it to make bricks. The rabbi went away making bricks. We didn't get to that yet back. So the Unterschied is the Torah that in Ashpoah there is two kinds of Ashpoahs. Give me the Milo Lamata. And even if you're infinite, you get to the lowest level, but still it's from your point of view. And then even the matter itself becomes a complete Kele, but that's much higher. Okay, I guess we'll have to stop here.